According to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, this Prime Minister's carbon tax will cost the average Nova Scotia family $1,500. That's why
8 out of 10 families throughout the country where we've put a federal price on pollution receive more money from it than they pay into it.
Welcome back to Canada Wide. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's have a look at these two guys because they always do this back and forth and they throw numbers around with no backup. And I'm going to back it up. I'm going to check what they're doing. So let's have a listen to them. And the exact numbers they're giving, I will give a location. Also, this right here is a QR code. That is the Budgetary Office report I am referring to. So when both of them bring it up, that's what I'm going to look for. You can scan it and look it up yourself. And I think that all of them should do that instead of just saying 8 out of 10 and 1 out of 2 and all these numbers they throw out. So let's have a listen and I will critique it. Let's do this.
Have an excellent tax to axe a tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. The Prime Minister is simply not worth the cost after 8 years.
carbon tax are not worth the cost after 8 long years. The Parliamentary Budget Officer confirms that in every single province, Canadians pay far more in taxes than they get back in rebates, a tax that will go up 23%. Today, common sense Conservatives are calling for the Prime Minister to grant his caucus a free vote on our motion to spike the hike.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, 8 out of 10 families throughout the country where we've put a federal price on pollution receive more money from it than they pay into it.
8 out of 10 families better off. There is no indication where this is from. I have no idea. I have a guess where it's from, but what he's saying is false. And he should show a QR code or documentation where he's getting it from. Right now, means nothing. Let's continue. There's no reference to it at all. Let's continue.
What the Leader of the Opposition is proposing is to remove not only checks that are delivered for families that help with groceries, with rent, with the impact of climate change, but they are also doing nothing to fight climate change to build a stronger future. We are here to help Canadians with checks. We are here to fight against climate change. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Understand that after 8 years, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost. And they're right. According to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, this Prime Minister's carbon tax will cost the average Nova Scotia family $1,500. That's why,
as noted here, this is what they should do. They should step into the 21st century and do this. Give the exact location. This is the one we will look at. So Nova Scotia right there, $936, 2024, 2025, average between all 5 quintiles ranging in different salary ranges. So that's the check you get back, $963. Now there's 2 numbers, net cost, fiscal and economic impacts. That is more of a bottom line number, i.e. your bottom line, the most significant number that matters to you. $537. That's the additional cost. So you add the 2 up. You get the check and your net. It's $1,500 on average. Nova Scotia pays more. They get the check back for $963. So that is correct. I love it. Let's keep moving.
the Nova Scotia legislature voted unanimously, Liberals, Conservatives, and NDP, to call on federal MPs representing the province to vote with the common sense Conservatives to spike the hike. Will he allow a free vote so Nova Scotians can vote for their constituents rather than the party boss?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
A family of 4 in Nova Scotia gets about $824 back in the year for the price on pollution. The Canadian carbon rebate delivers more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians right across the country.
As the data is noted here, $824. Well, if you go to that document, nothing is there. It does not exist at all there. So he is referencing something with no documentation whatsoever. And I don't know why he's saying a family of 4, but Anyway, I thought it was a family, like a 2 in there. I guess he has to say 4 because that makes it sound more like more people involved. But that $824 does not exist in that document. So he is getting it from somewhere else. He should note where it is, and anyone that throws a number out should do so. Let's continue. So right now it's disinformation or incomplete information. And the 8 out of the 10, still no documentation. Where is that from? Let's continue.
The Leader of the Opposition wants to take away those Canada carbon rebate checks from Canadian families, where 8 out of 10 families do better, even with the price on pollution. It's a way of fighting climate change, of building a safer, more prosperous future, and putting more money back in the pockets of Canadians, something he wants to take away.
Okay, I'm going to go back to that. 8 out of 10 families. The only thing I can think of, and I'm just looking at Ontario here because this is the one where it makes more sense. But no one should be guessing where his numbers are coming from, because he will say that 8 out of 10 for the next 2 years. Unfortunately, 2 years. So the only thing I can think of are these 5 quintiles that he is breaking it out into 20% in each bucket. And I'm not picking the net cost, fiscal, and economic impact, the last one, because that's the bottom line. Because that's reality. You don't want to show that one. You want to show net cost, fiscal impact only, not the economic. You don't need to show that. That's why he's picking the wrong information on here. But you see the 5 there? The only one, the 5th quintile, the people that make over $180,000, they are the only ones that pay the $163,000. That's the only thing I can think of. So that means 80% get back on fiscal impacts only, and 20% don't. Like, that is the only thing I can think of, because if you look at net cost, fiscal, and economic impact, you look through there, it's a much different picture. It's saying that, yeah, everybody, absolutely that 32, see that minus $32, that's really nothing. And the quintile 1 is people under $40,000. I think at that point, if you make under $40,000 in Canada, I don't think this climate rebate is anything in your life. I think you're more worried about rent and way other things than that. That's the only thing I can think of. And if you looked at the reality one, the cost, fiscal, and economic impact, it's actually 80% pay more. You see that? 80%, 8 out of 10 families pay more. And the ones that pay less make under $40,000, which is a totally other ballgame to worry about climate change. And I think if you ask them, that $10 a day daycare and stuff, maybe none of it even is remotely useful for them, depending on what stage of life you're at. Let's continue with these 2 guys going back and forth. And I would like it for Pierre and Trudeau and all of them, when they throw numbers around, put in a QR code, put a documentation where you're getting it to reference it. I would love to see that. And this would save a lot of time, because, even that $10 a day daycare now, that to see those numbers, because I understand that they don't even have the money to pay it, because it takes 45 days to pay it, and daycares are not even using that because they don't want it. So let's continue with these 2 guys going back and forth.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister has finally done something helpful when it comes to math. He says that his rebate for Nova Scotians is $850. Well, the Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed that the cost is $1,500 for the average Nova Scotia family. So he wants to take away $1,500 from the average Nova Scotia family in carbon taxes and give back only $850. Everybody knows that the carbon tax is just like him, not worth the cost. Will he allow a free vote?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Leader of the Opposition wants to take away the Canada carbon rebate checks that land in Nova Scotians' mailboxes, but in the pockets of families right across the country where the price on pollution is in place, because 8 out of 10 of them do better with the price on pollution and the Canada carbon rebate than they would. He wants to take away those checks from Canadians, and he wants to do far less to fight against the climate change impacts that Canadians are feeling from coast to coast to coast. No plan for the future, no money for Canadians.
L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
Speaker, the tax revolt has spread to Ontario, where now the Liberal leader of the provincial party has flip-flopped and says that she too is against the Prime Minister's carbon tax. Maybe that's because she read the Parliamentary Budget Officer report showing Ontarians will pay $1,674. That's more than $600 more than the rebate in that province. So, will the Prime Minister allow his Ontario MPs to have a free vote on our common sense Conservative motion to spike the hike?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, families in Ontario are facing higher prices for groceries, higher costs for rent, and we are delivering a Canada carbon rebate that leaves them better off. 8 out of 10 Canadian families across the country do more money in their pockets with the Canada carbon rebate than the price on pollution costs them. At the same time, the price on pollution is bringing down carbon emissions, preparing a cleaner economy of the future, and putting more money back in Canadians' pockets. The Conservatives want to take away the Canada carbon rebate checks. We're going to continue to support families on affordability and fighting climate change.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Right from the Parliamentary Budget Officer's numbers, he says $1,674 is the cost of the average Ontario family, and the rebate is only $1,047. So Ontarians are paying more than they get back, just like British Columbians, where the NDP government is administering the federally mandated carbon tax. And according to the Vancouver Sun today, the budget presented by the NDP in that province says the carbon tax will raise $9 billion over 3 years and only pay back $3 billion. Mr. Speaker, that's a net nearly $6 billion net carbon tax cost. Will he allow BC MPs?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for Canadians watching politics and watching this question period, for reporters up in the gallery, or anyone who wants to see a concrete example of the fact that the leader of the official opposition doesn't care about facts, doesn't care about evidence, doesn't care about how the Federation works. He just wants to make clever arguments to score partisan points. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, that British Columbia price on pollution has been there since 2008 and will continue to be administered by British Columbia, not the federal government. Well done.
The Honourable Member for Belleau-Chambly. Mr. Speaker,